Hi guys, I'm Jessica. Welcome back to the Fast English program. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between there is and there are. So first of all, we're going to establish the difference between here and there. Here means in this place. There means at that point. So let's look at a little example. If this is me, and I'm standing here inside this building, I am here. Here is the point that this place is at. But there is the house over there. There is the other point. So if I'm here, this house is there. So now we're going to be talking about the difference between there is and there are. We use there is and there are to indicate the presence of a person or of people or of objects at a particular place. So we use there is when we're talking about singular nouns. So for example, there is a table. We use there is because table is a singular noun. So this also could be there is one table. We use there is because once again it's one table, it's singular. So we use there is. But when we want to talk about plural nouns, we use there are. So for example, there are 3 tables. Now the noun is plural, tables. So we use there are. We could also say, if we're not talking about a specific number, like 3, there are some tables. Some indicates that tables are plural, but it doesn't say the specific number. Now, if we want to talk about negative sentences, we don't just use the word not like we do in a lot of other cases. We do add not. So for example, there isn't, which is the contraction from last time. That means is not, remember? So there isn't a table. So this means there is not a table in singular. If we want to use a plural sentence, we say there aren't, which is the contraction for are not, any tables. So we use any in negative sentences. So there are not any tables. We also use any in questions. So for example, if you want to make a yes or no question, you would say, is there a table? For singular questions, is, remember, is singular. So is there a table? Or you could say, are there any tables? So we use any for the negative sentences and plural questions. There are not any tables, and are there any tables? Now we're going to talk a little bit about information questions. Before we were talking about yes or no questions. So for information questions, we add a WH word at the beginning of the question. So for example, what is there on the table? Who is there? And why is there an apple? So these three questions are not just yes or no questions, they're asking for information in the answer. So what is there on the table? Who is there? Why is there an apple? And remember, other WH words are when, where, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between some and any before we finish up. Okay, if you remember from the examples, we use some for affirmative plural sentences. So, the example from before, there are some tables. This is an affirmative, there are, and then plural because it's tables. So we use some. But we use any for negative plural sentences or for questions. So another example from before. There aren't any apples. We use any because it's negative, there are not, and apples makes it plural. So for negative and plural sentences, we use any. We also use it for questions, remember? So another example. Are there any apples? So here is a plural question. Are there any apples? So we use any again. So some is for plural affirmative. Any is for negative plural and questions. So that's just a brief introduction about there is and there are. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.